Trump warned again, Venezuela is spinning out of control. Only hours later, the Caribbean lit up with the kind of danger he warned about. At 5:40 a.m., the calm over the Caribbean broke like a crack in glass. Dozens of A-10 Warthogs came in low from the north, engines shaking the water below. They were flying under 300 feet, moving fast, less than 2 miles from Venezuelan radar range. Fishermen on the coast froze. This did not look like training. It looked like a strike force arriving early. Inside Venezuela's main radar station, alarms hit the room at once, screens tightened. Operators saw the fast-moving shapes cutting straight toward the coastline. Instead of pulling back, the A-10 dropped even lower, holding a combat-ready line that made no sense for practice. For Caracas, this was not a casual flyover. This was a warning sent in steel and noise. The Warthog is a tank killer, and everyone there knew it. Radar officers called their command posts. The S-300VM battery switched to full alert. Every second mattered. If the A-10 crossed the line, reaction time would be almost zero. This was not a mistake. Washington was testing how fast Venezuela would panic, and the truth was clear. They were already rattled. If you want to follow this standoff moment by moment, hit subscribe so you don't miss the next escalation. What happened at 5:40 a.m. was not just noise in the sky. It mattered because the A-10 is one of the most recognizable attack aircraft the US has ever used. When dozens of them show up close to a country already under pressure, the signal is clear. Washington wants Caracas to feel every second of it. The Caribbean is not a wide empty space. It is filled with shipping lanes, radar nets, and flight paths watched 24 hours a day. Flying low in that zone is not casual. It is deliberate, and everyone in the area knows it. For Venezuela, the timing made everything worse. Fuel shortages, weakening military units, and rising tension with neighbors made the country more fragile than usual. Seeing A-10 that close to the coastline forced them to face a question they do not want to answer. How long could they survive if a real fight started? The A-10 was built for close air support, the kind of missions that break tanks, destroy bunkers, and clear entire routes. Venezuelan officers know their armored units cannot hold against that kind of firepower. Even one burst from the GAU-8 can shred what they depend on. To the US, this maneuver was not only about Venezuela. It was about sending a reminder to Russia and Iran, two countries that have backed Caracas for years. If Washington can move a large formation of Warthogs into the Caribbean without resistance, it means the region is still under American reach. It also shows allies like Colombia, Panama, and the islands nearby that Washington is not stepping back from the area. They see it as protection, not provocation. And for the pilots, this flight was more than training. Most of them have done real combat runs in Iraq or Afghanistan. Flying low, staying tight in formation, and feeling the ocean heat come up through the cockpit brings back instincts built from years in war zones. That is why Venezuela panicked. They were not watching rookies. They were watching experienced combat crews who know how to strike hard and fast. This is why the flyover changed the tone in the region. It pushed fear into Caracas, raised questions in Moscow, and gave confidence to countries that depend on American power. It also set up the next stage. Because if Venezuela reacts the wrong way, the pressure will not stop with a single formation of A-10. It will get louder, heavier, and closer. If you think this tension is only getting started, press 1. If you believe the A-10 already made the message clear, press 9 and tell us why in the comments. The first alert hit at 5:41 a.m. inside the radar station near Caracas. A sharp warning tone cut through the room. A fast, low contact appeared, tagged A-10. More icons followed until a full formation filled the screen. Quiet turned to crisis instantly. The commander rushed in. Range? 2 miles and dropping. That was enough. He hit the alert switch. Red lights flashed. Calls went out to activate the S-300VM cruise. Low-flying A-10 meant a possible strike pattern. In the hills, S-300VM crews scrambled. Track anything you can, a sergeant ordered. Everyone knew the radar struggled at low altitude. Over the coast, the A-10 held formation just a few hundred feet above the ocean. Calm pilot voices only sharpened Venezuelan tension. At 5:43 a.m., Venezuela raised the situation to level 3. Soldiers and civilians watched as the A-10 split into wings, flying patterns that looked like real attack runs. Inside the radar station, a sudden lock tone beeped. The computer briefly flagged an A-10 as hostile. "Do not engage!" the commander snapped. The lock faded, but not the fear. At 5:45 a.m.s, 300 VM radar got a clearer signal. "Mock attack lines," the crew chief said. Younger soldiers went silent. They understood. The U.S. was measuring every reaction. 2 Venezuelan fighters were ordered to scramble at 5:47 a.m., engines screaming, then frozen. "Hold position." They waited as A-10 dominated the sky. At 5:49 a.m., the A-10 split into 3 groups. 2 hugged the coast, 1 climbed to test radar gaps. It was obvious the U.S. was mapping every weakness. One wrong move could have turned this into a regional flashpoint. If Venezuela should have responded faster, press 1. If holding back was safer, press 9. At 5:50 a.m., the situation escalated. The first A-10 group turned sharply toward the coastline, engines kicking up waves. The second group tightened formation, making it clear they weren't just transiting. In the command center, officers watched radar lines move with unsettling precision. Operators struggled to keep the jets on screen. Every low dip made the system flicker. "They're stressing the low band," a technician said. The commander knew the tactic low-alt pressure to push old filters to their limit. In the hills, S-300 VM crews tried to lock a coastal target, but the signal vanished. Terrain masking. The system was built for high-alt threats. These jets were flying exactly where it hurt. At 5:52 a.m., 3 A-10 broke toward a known radar gap. "They're testing timing," the commander said, "not attacking, measuring reactions." Along the shore, soldiers filmed the A-10 overhead. These looked like strike runs. The paths were too sharp to ignore. At 5:54 a.m., the A-10 rose just enough to appear clearly on radar, then dropped again, each rise forcing another system adjustment, revealing response speed. By 5:55 a.m., the jets swung wide, probing another weak point. Tiny turns shifted Venezuela's reaction time by seconds. The A-10 were testing everything. On the runway, 2 fighters waited. "We can intercept." Negative. Hold. One scramble could trigger a fight no one wanted. At 5:57 a.m., the A-10 neared the northern defense line. "If they cross that, we're out of options," an officer said. This wasn't random flying, it was controlled pressure on every vulnerability. Every move pulled the region closer to a dangerous line. If Venezuela should have launched the fighters, press 1. If holding back was smarter, press 9. By 6 a.m., Venezuelan commanders thought the A-10 were just pushing the coastline, but the jets suddenly shifted. Instead of turning back, they climbed slightly, slowed, and spread out, giving radar a clean, perfect read. It didn't match any normal drill. Inside the command center, officers stared at the screen. "Why are they slowing?" the commander asked. No one knew. The pattern looked intentional, almost like the jets wanted Venezuela to track them clearly. Then a faint return appeared behind the A-10. At first it looked like noise, but when the A-10 turned, the faint signal turned with them. "There's something else out there," the crew chief said, "and it's staying in their trail." The commander realized the truth. The A-10 were the distraction. The real goal was to force Venezuela to expose every radar mode and timing gap while a second asset, likely a small drone, captured the data from behind. "They're opening us up," the commander said. And they were. Each climb and drop pushed the radar into a different setting. The US was learning reaction times, blind spots, and how long it took to stabilize a lock at low altitude. At 6:04 a.m., the faint return vanished. Whatever it was had already gathered what it needed. Seconds later, the A-10 snapped into tight formation and began pulling away from the coast. Soldiers outside cheered, thinking the pressure was over. But inside the command room, the mood was grim. "We just showed them everything," an officer said. They had exposed the weak points of their entire radar network. The twist wasn't the A-10 flyover. The twist was the hidden data suite behind it. If you think Venezuela caught on too late, press 1. If you think they still don't see the danger, press 9 and tell us why. At 6:05 a.m., the morning hit its peak. The A-10 suddenly tightened formation and dropped low again, roaring so hard the coastline shook. For the first time, it looked like they might cross Venezuela's defensive line. Inside the radar station, operators watched the screens fill with strong returns. "They're coming in fast," one said. The commander leaned in. The A-10 were flying in a pattern that looked exactly like an attack, run tight, low, and headed straight toward the most sensitive part of the northern coast. The room felt heavier with every second. At 6:06 a.m., the S-300VM cruise reported, "Partial lock, unstable." The jets were too low for a clean shot. The commander forced out the only order he could give: hold fire. Everyone knew one missile, even by mistake, could start a war. The A-10 kept closing the distance. A soldier whispered, "We're seconds away." The radar tone climbed, the formation held, and nobody knew if the jets would pull up or push through. At 6:07 a.m., Venezuela finally launched its fighters. Engines roared as both jets lifted off. "Airborne," one pilot said. The A-10 reacted immediately, rising into a sharp climb, then splitting into multiple groups the fighters struggled to track. "They're dropping low again," the second pilot said. Their older jets couldn't match the Warthogs' rapid shifts. Back in the command center, the commander saw the real move. The A-10 were pulling the fighters up and away, clearing space for another group to stay low and finish their mapping run along the shoreline. It was a coordinated distraction, and it worked. At 6:09 a.m., the lead A-10 dropped low one last time. "Boundary breach in 10 seconds, an operator said. The S-300VM crew stood ready, unsure if they'd be forced to act. The room fell silent. One wrong move from either side could turn the morning into a regional crisis. Then, at the final moment seconds before the breach, the A-10 pulled up smoothly and turned toward open water. The roar faded, the radar returns thinned, the coastline fell quiet again. Soldiers on the ground let out long breaths. The fighters circled, still unsure if the jets would come back. The commander leaned back, shaken, and said what everyone already felt. They controlled the entire sky. If you think this proved the US owns the air, press 1. If Venezuela barely avoided disaster, press 9 and tell us why. When the A-10 finally turned back toward open water, Venezuela felt a quick wave of relief, but it faded fast. The jets didn't fire a single round, yet they exposed weak points that Caracas never wanted anyone to see. Inside the command center, officers watched the radar clear and knew the US had gathered more data in minutes than Venezuela could hide in months. Across the country, soldiers were shaken. The A-10 proved they could get close, move fast, and leave before Venezuela had time to react. Civilians near military sites stocked up on supplies, worried this flyover was only the first step. Venezuela's allies reacted loudly but nervously. Russia called the maneuver dangerous, but their analysts admitted the low-altitude gaps were real and hard to fix. Iran condemned the flyover, yet their advisors warned they had little ability to support Venezuela in a real conflict. Both knew the truth. The US had shown total air dominance in the Caribbean. Meanwhile, Colombia, Panama, and nearby island states quietly viewed the operation as reassurance. To them, the A-10 signaled that Washington still had reach, speed, and control in the region. Inside Pentagon briefings, analysts reviewed every second of the flight. The delayed scramble, weak radar tracking, and tight A-10 formation all pointed to one conclusion. If a real fight started, Venezuela's air defenses wouldn't last long. For Caracas, the political fallout was immediate. Leaders were forced to explain why the fighters launched late, why radar lost track, and why the jets flew so close without resistance. None of the answers made them look stronger. The region now sits on a sharper edge. The US sent a message. Venezuela saw its limits. and the next move may not be just a flyover. If you think this morning shifted the balance, press 1. If you think the real showdown is still coming, press 9 and tell us why.